Okay, as promised a couple weeks ago, we have some work to do. This John Deere 550CS came to me in pretty damn good shape, except for one little detail. Somehow, wherever it was stored before I got it, it rotted the tank out. And I don't know how, I don't know why, but I've always been not concerned. I was concerned at first that I would have a fuel tank leak. Well, it ends back there, it's still sealed. But I've always wanted to deal with that particular issue. And as you guys know, something appeared on eBay in the form of a new old stock part that'll allow me to deal with just that issue. So, today we're going to install this. Now, one thing we will be adding to this saw, in addition to the new throttle handle and tanks, is the outer bucking spike. I came across some of those a number of years ago, and I couldn't justify the amount of time it would take me to get to the saws in the attic to restore them, or to add them to that. So I decided, well, the next time I have to take one down, I'll just add it to it. Well, that's where we're at. There we go. And I will go ahead and clean this out while I have it apart. I have cut with this. I think I last cut at TJ's. Well, that's probably been a decade ago. But I did cut with it, and it runs just fine. Yeah. UPR32J3LJ. It's not a standard Homelite pattern. Of course, this is based on an 8800, but it does fit. So I don't know who. That's a Windsor style tip. Well, I'm assuming they made these for Deere. I don't know. And I guess it's also possible that that bar fits something else in this time period and I just got lucky. I am willing to state that that's a possibility. Alright. Enough fiddle farting around here. Let's get down to business. Now, I know we're going to have to take a fair amount apart. Let's go ahead and get the air filter cover and the cylinder cover off. Oh, look at that. Looks like I put a new old stock filter on here, and those are the remnants of cutting with TJ. Pretty cool. That was a little looser than I'd care for. But no crap made it behind the seal, so that needs to be cleaned out. Okay. Now, I don't want to take apart crap I don't have to. But I'm pretty sure we've got to get this chamber plate off. I don't know what the IPL calls this, but this is what's basically allowing the air filter to seal to the carburetor chamber. That's an S date code. So this is a pretty late one. I'll leave the screws with that for now. There is a gasket under here. Okay. That's how that was able to mount up like that and not leak sawdust out. Now this kind of stuff you are not going to find growing on trees. Some of these gaskets are widely available, others are not. I don't know if that one is or not, but I sure as heck don't want to lose it and screw it up. Okay, so this, whether I did it or not, had the alternate style tank vents that work much better. That's almost just like a fuel filter right there. Those one-way echo style valves might even be better. I'll have to look and see. But see how this old tank system right here, it has a centered filter, and you can see it's all jacked up. I'm sure the duckbill under that is complete trash. We'll see if we can get that out. But they had a vent system for both the, eventually on the 8800 for the fuel and the oil. And it was a kit that Homelite offered. Looks like I did not replace hoses back in the day. Let's see if they're still good. That one is. Fuel hose is still soft. That means I probably drained the carb and the tank when I got done. It's my standard practice. Okay. The choke on these things, when I get it out, I'll show you. It uses a modern style just kind of snap in place, but it also has a place to put a cotter pin on it. And I did that for whatever reason. I mean, I don't think that thing could ever pop out, but come on, baby. God, I don't want to break that. Ouch. There we go. See, it's got the modern snap-in feature, but it also is drilled at the end to put a cotter pin through. Alright. Let's go ahead and pull the carb loose. And this is where I get nervous when we start disturbing gaskets. Because I don't want to disturb anything that I have to then cut and replace. But we got to do what we got to do in order to do this project. Oh, that boot. Please tell me you release and don't die. I'm going to get these screws all the way out. If I can. Okay. So the high-low is the only thing that's holding that. I guess I ought to quit screwing around and pull this little panel off. So that is literally just a switch panel, and I can just let that hang and get this high-low grommet out of the way if I can. Not what I had in mind. Okay. See if this will come out of the boot all the way. I guess we got to disconnect this. This is a snap-in throttle linkage to the trigger here. Let's see if I can get it to come out. Almost. There we go. Okay. Oh, you just went right back into place. So disturbing stuff that you don't want to destroy is a little disconcerting, but there we go. Somebody's silicone this. I have never done that. I wonder if I even had to rebuild the carb when I got this thing. There we go. At least I sure don't remember having ever done anything like that. Alright, so there's a flange on the back of the carb that is actually snapped into the intake boot, and that's what I'm watching here. Ooh, there she went. Okay. Surprised that didn't have an air leak when this boot was installed. Whether I did it or someone else did it, they didn't lubricate enough around this flange, and it's actually distorted. I mean, somehow it went together and it sealed. But man, that is not right. We'll have to take a closer look at that, because we have to take that loose. Wow. Let's see if I can zoom you guys in. Oh yeah, I got right in there. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. So it shoved a good chunk of the sealing flange down in there, created a big wrinkle, and again it's sealed somehow. God, that's ridiculous. So that flange has to come off. That is part of the throttle handle here. I guess might as well go ahead and get this handle out of the way before going too much further. Ew, stale fuel behind that screw. So the books aren't all that clear. The IPLs, I heard a nut drop. Is that inside of here? Oh, son of a gun. So that's not, the top isn't self-threaded. Has a nut that slips in the back of the casting here. Just looking at the new one. Yep, that's maintained. Okay. Interesting. The differences between the earlier 540 and then the later 8800. The 88 or the 540, one of the things that nobody liked about it was the plastic handle and tanks. Okay, they everybody was going to that, but Homelite had been doing plastic for at least, well, close to a decade by the time the 540 would have come out. But when it was revised into the 8800, they went back to this magnesium tank, which actually, you know, of course, adds some weight, but I think folks were much, much happier with that. So, again, I have used my 540 sparingly. I don't think I've ever done a video of it cutting, because it's a very, very clean. It's even cleaner than this saw. And I got it out of Washington State. One of the few saws I think I've bought off of Craigslist. So anyway, the differences there on the tank are obvious. The handlebars are a little less obvious, the differences, but it is fairly major. And while I think you can find ways to make it work, you've got to understand that that one's glued in place. These nuts slip in kind of like a McCulloch style, which means they're not my favorite, but less likely to get damaged. On the 540, so there's this little steel reinforcement plate here for the handle. On the 540, what there is a raised hump of plastic, basically in that outline right there, and the crimp on the handle is reversed from this, so that the crimp is sitting over the hump of plastic. Okay, whereas this one, the crimp goes in. So while the physical dimensions of these things really didn't change, that did, and that makes a difference. So on this saw, alright, so this is drilled with nothing on it, and that must be the fuel tank vent, because the oil is the top one. The oil tank is what got the centered. That's interesting. So this had been upgraded. Wow, the things you learn. But after that, the changes are fairly minimal. The cylinder design has changed, transfer port design and all of that. And of course there was a foam insulating kit that was on the 8800 that you put on almost every part that was supposed to make the airflow better. The long and the short of it is people were burning them up. They were hogging them hard and burning them up. And with what I believe is a fully adjustable, this is a Walbro WJ60, I think it's a fully adjustable carb. So I think they were back to the problem of you could tune it too tight and blow it up. I don't remember if there's a governor, you know, kind of the bypass assembly in there that the Tillys used. I honestly don't remember. Get the start. Oh, John Deere used washers. Huh. I wonder if Homelite did, and I've just never noticed it. I mean, these were built on the Homelite assembly line. When I say something like that, don't think that Deere was producing these. Homelite just picked days that they produced saws with the Deere logo versus the Homelite. And now that I've seen date codes from R and S for the year, and look at my paper in a minute. I don't know, I'll do it right now because I'm going to keep blathering about it. Yeah, 96 and 97. R is 96, S is 97. So that is literally a hot second before Deere sold Homelite off and said, nah, we're done with y'all. Which of course was the beginning, was a very quick end to what we knew as Homelite. Okay, there's part of that foam kit there. At least I don't think that was on every starter. But that, again, was forcing it to draw clean air through the grate, the grill, starter cover, whatever you want to call it, and then force it into the engine. And they didn't want any possibility of just recirculating hot air that was emanating out back in. They wanted maximum cooling. Fairly clean. Alright, that's as far as we need to go. I think I can see everything that I need to see in order to drop this. I'm going to leave the cylinder cover on for now. We're going to pull the plate here that also has been siliconed. This has got the boot in it. And I'll have to make a gut decision on whether I leave that alone. I don't like the looks of that. That was, if I did that, that was a very bad mistake, but this saw has been in my collection for a long time, so I just don't know. I don't remember. Oh, it is still pliable. Problem is it's distorted too much now, having sat for a decade like that, to pull back into shape. So let's get this plate out. Come on, baby. Yeah, if I did that, I was really stupid. And yet the saw still ran. Ran really good. Alright. We can leave that floating. So there are 6 isolators. 1, 2, 3 on this side. And 3 basically just opposed on the other side. So this is not a difficult project. I had built it up in my mind that it was going to be a real pain in the ass. And it may still. Because what we do have to do is transfer the trigger guts over to the new handle. It did not come loaded, so to speak. So there are still opportunities for this to suck. But so far this has been pretty easy. 1, 2, 3. Don't even have to move the coil. I like that. It's too bad this style of saw wasn't around longer. Oh, damn, that was tight. Easy to work on. If you didn't run them like you were dumb, I think they were quite reliable. What am I forgetting? Alright, we just cleared the intake boot. We're almost there. There's a hose. That's what this is. Coming out of the oil tank, there's a connector where the hose goes over. You guys able to see that? Let me see if I can avoid spiking myself. Right there. See that? That's the oil feed hose. I'll zoom in. There you go. You can see the nylon block. You got to disconnect it right there. And then it looks like the carburetor pulse hose is coming out too, so we'll pull it. And I'm just gonna pull it all the way through. There we go. Switch panel's loose. There she is, folks. Set this aside for the moment. I'm gonna put it on the floor out of my way. Okay, so the isolators have a little insert, and they ought to pop pretty much right out. Yeah, those are in great shape. Yeah, do the twisty-turny thingy. And if you get confused on your linkage, always look for the turn up, okay? And I don't mean what grows in the ground. Right there is going to go through the throttle arm on the carburetor, and the big flat spot, that's what will clip into your trigger. You can usually figure it out if you just follow that. Back this off a little bit so that I'm not out of frame on everything. Alright, we're going to have to salvage our choke rod grommet. That is a piece of cake. I'll have to make sure the fuel hose on this new tank is actually long enough. That's the fuel hose to the carburetor. That's the vent to the fuel tank. The new one. It's not even installed. How did they not? It's not even drilled. Did they really? Or is that? Maybe I'm misspeaking. I can't see for Sour Owl. No? That is so weird. How did they think the tank was going to vent? So I need to drill this drill that out and install a filter setup like that. I'm going to see if I can reuse this. It's just cleaner under there. If I can get that to come out and clean it enough and drop a new duckbill in, I will. Can't see squat inside the tank. I don't know. God, I really don't see the hose. There's no, they didn't install any filters on this. So this is in a recess in order to prevent oil from getting to it, so I can't feel anything. I don't know, we'll see. Oddly, it does come with a new chamber plate. And it is silicone from the factory. That's odd. That big goopy mess that can't... I wouldn't think is factory. Alright. Now the trigger setup. This is going to be interesting. Let's go ahead and knock the trigger pivot pin off. It does not appear to have any kind of a spring on it. And this is probably too big. That is not too big. I can actually use the right tool for the job. Pin number 1 out. Trigger is probably still captured. Let's see if we can work it past without breaking it. Okay. I have a feeling lining that up into the safety trigger, what I can't see is what that spring that's on the safety trigger, how the hell that connects. I'm concerned about that. The high speed, or not high speed, the starting throttle lock is the same thing that was used on a Super XL with the plastic pin. Okay, same stuff right there. And it looks like there's a grommet. This bushing's going to have to be reused. I bet getting that out is going to be a fun one. Okay. What I can't tell is if it's plastic or rubber. Or what I'm going to have to do to that. I'm going to come back to that. Let's drive this other pin out and see what happens. And she exploded. Okay. Okay, I always wondered. That spring is next to unobtainium. It's a flat spring. And it just slides on from the back. I'm not going to F this one up. I always wondered about that. There's some wax. Interesting. These are the only saws that that stupid spring was used on. So that naturally tensions itself as you drop it into place. That's okay. Interesting. Not bad. And then, of course, I'm going to have to carefully try and razor this inspection, or not inspection, but the ID plate off to put on the new handle. So I think I'm going to call the disassembly here and go off video and do some cleanup work, and then we will come back. Okay, we're getting close here. So the part wasn't ready to use. Okay. These two vent holes, you know, I noted that one wasn't drilled. Well, neither was the one under the original tank filter. They installed it with the duckbill without ever drilling it. Look at how effed up that duckbill is. So imagine if you were a dealer and you got this part and you installed it without checking anything because, well, it should be done right. You test run it on your bench, it runs fine, but the customer takes it out, and after about 10 minutes of cutting, they're like, this thing won't run, it won't oil. So yeah, a little bit frustrating there. So Homelite's kit for venting these things was basically their standard Zama filter, like you guys saw in there. This one might be a little bit bigger because it's vented, or excuse me, weighted. But I don't know that I have a non-weighted one in there, so it'll work. We're going to put a standard duckbill and that sintered tube back in. A pair of vice grips pulled it right out, so I see no reason to not to reuse it. This, for the fuel tank, what I've got is an imitation of the kit that Homelite would have sold, okay? Again, slightly smaller filter without the weight on it, and then just a way to hold a duckbill valve in there, so it's one way. Lets air in, doesn't let gas out. The filter filters the air. Now, yes, it's a fuel filter, but it'll also filter sawdust out. Not to mention, it's already in the air box where there should be less dust. Not none, but a whole lot less. So, let's go ahead and get this installed. I've got the pull wire in place here. So what I've done is put a slash cut on a chunk of hose, and I'm going to install the duckbill, and then we're going to pull it up into the tank itself. I've already punched a hole in the tip of the hose here. I may not be able to find it again, but I did punch it. There we go. We'll see if my wire will bend one more time without breaking here. I'm not sure if this should have come pre-installed from the factory, all this crap, and it was just one massive screw up, or if Homelite really made their dealers do the tank venting. I think this is a massive screw up. I think somebody had a little too much tequila the night before on the assembly line, the day that this was produced. Let's see if we can pull this up through. See what I'm doing? I'm just slowly working. So I don't want to tear this hose and not have enough to grab a hold of. Alright, we're going to see. That might be enough. Oh shit. Tore right out. Well, that's sucky, Moto. Alright. I'm going to say that hose is rotten. Even though it doesn't feel like it, that tip is tearing out too much, so I'm not going to use it. Okay, well that was fun. I'll have to go back to the manual. Or not manual, but well, I don't have... I swear they talked about it in a dealer service memo at some point, but maybe I'm misremembering. You may have to drill this a little bigger than what you would if you were just using a duckbill. I drilled it to 5/32 because that's standard duckbill size, but perhaps I made my life more miserable by doing that. Okay, I'm going to cut this off a little low and just install this filter and be done with this part of the project. If you're thinking this is kind of a janky look and fix, well, you're not wrong. But that is just the way Homelite chose to do it. But it'll slip over there out of the way. Alright, let's get the rest of the throttle handle put back together. I haven't pried these grommets out yet. We'll talk about the fast idle pin grommet here in a second. These other ones ought to be easily reusable. Close. Once you pop down in place, there we go. Well, almost. There we go. Choke rod grommet. God, John Deere must have spec'd some sort of sealant on these, even though Homelite didn't do it on the 8800 that I've ever seen. That is interesting. Completely unnecessary. Just a pain in the ass. Okay. Alright. What did I say we were going to talk about? That. So, this was used on the 330s after about late 1981, the 540 and the 8800, and of course the 550CS. Now this bushing has a rib on the end. There it goes. Alright, don't get your shorts in a twist. That helps retain it in place. The easiest way is to reach down through the top with the screwdriver and start pushing this out. If you pry on the outer edge, like I did, you break it. Now, like any good redneck, I've put some super glue on it, and I'm going to reuse it. There's some available out on eBay, but I don't want to. So the spring actually goes about halfway down in here. Okay? About halfway down. And then it narrows out for the pin. So the damage that I did by popping it out, I had to file off. But now it moves freely. So let's see if I can reinstall it in the new handle without damaging my super glue job. And that would be a no. Not very likely, because I've got too much crap out there. I don't know. If this becomes too much of an issue, I will order a new one and just install it when it comes in. But we're going to give this the old college try. Oh yeah, it's going to work. It worked. Alright, no one's going to know. I'll know, you'll know, but nobody else that matters will know. Alright. Now, because I can slip that in from there, we're going to try installing the trigger first. Only because of the throttle safety arrangement, I think it's probably going to be easier. Now, there's probably going to be a bunch of paint that makes this difficult, but you know what? It hasn't so far. But I'm also not actually there she goes. Wow. Well, that's somewhat amazing. That went in too easily. I feel nervous about this. Okay. I'm not going to go too far. There's splines on that end that actually dig into the metal. So I don't have any fears of it coming out. That's for damn sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this in place. And this might be where this idea falls apart. We'll see. Can I? Oh, you can actually see really clearly. This has got to be one of the easier installations. Well, other than this part. Okay, not working well. See what we get. I get my, oh, okay, there we go. Now, that ought to go in. There we go. below the surface won't catch your hand good enough for old government work. Or whatever it is I am doing right now. Okay, let's put a throttle pin back in. Oh, did I screw up? Yeah, I did. I should have put the... This is going to be... difficult with the trigger in place. I probably should have remembered that. But we're going to try it anyway. It's starting to get hot out in this shop. I'd like to get this wrapped up and go in and do some video editing where the air conditioning will reach. I think I did. I think so. That's a stroke of luck. Okay. Get the throttle rod back in place. Doing the twisty wobbly. There we go. That ought to be right there. And then we'll snap it in. You guys can see that. I think it's already there. It is. Let's install the duckbill valve in the oil tank before we go and forget. And by we, I mean me. So drilling it out to 530 seconds, it drops right in. Now, how tight is this going to be? Well, it'll tap down. Put away my stuff a little too soon. Say, worst case, I could give it a dauber of glue. That's fine. I have a feeling that those fit loose enough that they would pop out on some folks, and that's also part of why the new style of vent ended up being used. But this is lower profile. It's definitely cleaner. Alright. I keep popping that out because I love playing with the trigger. I think, other than we need to capture, ouch, the oil hose here and put a filter on it. These things, I find it so hard to believe that this tank would have come without a filter or anything on it. That just is so strange. Doesn't seem quite right. I really think somebody partied a little too hard the night before they were doing the work on this one. Okay. And of course this is not pulled out far enough. So I'm going to get it about to where the old one was and call it good. And that's about to where the old one was, and we're going to call it good. And I think, yeah, that was what got this critter. And I think that's a new carburetor pulse hose, which is good because the old one looks like crap. Alright, set that over there carefully. Let's grab our engine. And because I have it here, we're going to replace this boot. Like I say, if I was the one that did this, this is some of the sloppiest work I think I have ever done. But because it's been so long ago, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. We're just going to fix it now. We're here. We're going to deal with it. I do want to pull. Now, before I will see if I can get you guys... Alright, I know that's herky-jerky and it probably is going to settle where I don't want it. Stop moving. You guys see that? I'm sure you do. That hose is cracked out. Wasn't leaking when I parked it. But I'll bet if I went to run it right now, well, before I ripped it in half, come on, focus, that would not have been good. So, there we go. That's a real shame. This boot is otherwise fine. Now, I need to take... I'd have gotten away with leaving this cylinder cover on if it wasn't for a boot. It looks like that plate will hit. That does have the foam package on it. It's interesting. Oh yeah, because that plate is a part of that. At least it sure looks like it to me. If you're thinking those weren't overly tight, I'd agree with you. Okay. I gotta make sure to get that wire grommet back in there. That's pot metal. And the old boot just pops right off. The gasket's not disturbed, so we're not gonna disturb it. Oh, I should have looked at the offset. Okay. There are cut marks to align it here. And it looks like no matter which way you put it on, it's going to align. It's the way we had it, and that's why it's all goober slobbered up. It's a real shame. I don't like that. Okay, problem solved. On she goes. In you go. And if I haven't completely lost everything on my workbench, there we go. We're going to put a little Loctite blue on these. I do not like how loose those felt. I'd sure hate to have a saw burn up because of something like that. Started to align. Okay. At least broke through the paint that way. That should keep that. That's nice and undistorted. Yeah, I think we're ready to try and slip this together. Now, I could reuse, that's going through and connecting to the oil pump. I'm going to go ahead and reuse that. So we'll make the connection for the oiler first. And no, I did not get it that easily. Get it past the burb here. There we go. Alright. And one of the hoses is doing the hose thing, leaving evidence of itself all over me. We'll connect the carburetor pulse. There we go. Okay, I think we need our isolators. Probably would have been easier for me to do this before hooking those hoses up. They're all the same. Oh well, you guys learned my mistakes. Fortunately, it's not like it's a end of the world kind of mistake. Alright. I think Homelite originally put some adhesive on the inserts to help keep them from falling out. Oop, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to assemble it. Oh yeah, baby. Alright, you... what are you doing? You do not... Damn it. Stupid thing. You don't belong anywhere near over there. We were so close here. Alright, I've got that intake boot I need to deal with. I'm going to go ahead and drop the pin in on the front here. That way it can't keep sliding out of place. I'm not making it tight. But I do want a point of stability on this. Man, that new paint's nice and pretty, even with my greasy fingerprints on it. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Alright. Now we can work on getting the old boot up. Now see, that one was falling out and making this more difficult than it needed to be. The boot is trying to come through. Oh, that's close. That's real close. That's real good is what that is. Oh yeah. And that's, yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. Okay, I'm looking at my hoses to make sure nothing's pinched back there. Oh, this isolator is out of place. I do not want any. Yeah. Alright, now that they're all in place, tight is right. Ouch, that spike is sharp. I impale the shat out of myself in a minute if I'm not careful. Alright. And I say, other than my greasy fingerprints, that is a pretty good looking tank. And there's no corrosion in the bottom. Whew. Alright. Can I remember? Probably that one. Let's get our switch panel back in place. No. No. We got to deal with that high-low grommet. Switch panel's not going in place. We're putting the carb in. Again, this was put away dry, so I have no reason to believe I need to go into the carb and do a damn thing to it. But we're going to lubricate this neck so that as it slips into the intake boot, there's no funny business. If I am the one that damaged that boot, it was probably trying to install the carburetor with that grommet, that high-low grommet in place. That's just my guess. But like I say, if I did that, if I damaged that boot, that's how I damaged it. Could you just slip there? Okay. No, God. I don't like this design. Alright, I'll hold it. Okay. Yeah, by God, I can see the boot wrinkling. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I mean, I have to assume that that's correct. Now, can I get this little shit to go in place? I think I'll put a little oil in the adjuster holes. That's why I haven't screwed it down yet. The carb itself. I want the maximum opportunity to install this grommet without causing damage, because it is made of unobtainium. If there's any out there, they're sitting in guys' hoarded collections, and not mine. I'll cop to some of that, but not on that part. Okay. Alright. Those hoses are going to reach. Take a little back from that one. This is coming together. This is actually coming together. Alrighty. Carburetor screws. Note, it's stuck to... I'm going to put that down there. It's stuck to the carb, but there is a gasket right there that this thing even mounts to. And I'm assuming, I mean, this is a spitback tube, so I'm assuming that that's channeling fuel back into the engine instead of into the airbox here. I would have to laugh if that was considered an emissions thing from 1997. As dumb as that sounds, it could have been. Let's make sure this is threading somewhat easily. For new threads, that's somewhat easily. I think we might have got it, folks. Okay. I can't put that away yet. What am I smoking? Put the choke rod back on and see if I stand a chance of stabbing that cotter pin again a little bit with your finger. And then it snaps into place. Oh, that is a tough snap. Wow. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, I'm making a judgment call. That ain't coming out. Screw that cotter pin. There's no earthly need for it. Alright, hose connections. And that is getting shoved under the adjusters. There we go. Yay! Now I can put this back on the switch panel. Painting those threads. Damn it. Okay. Pretty odd, but that is the switch panel. Put our gasket back in our air filter adapter here. I took it out for the bath. Okay. Ah. Wow. She's starting to look like a saw again. Let's throw our cylinder cover back in place, and then we'll see about the starter and the main handle. Getting all screws. Okay, one important thing to note, and I caught myself as I was installing the starter, there are 3 different sizes of screws that are used on this handle. And I'm not yet certain. Here we go. Okay. So on the bottom, again, there's nuts that slide in to the bottom. Slide it into those slots, and you screw it in. Those are 1032, and they are the shorter of your 2 handle screws. As you get back to the throttle handle, you have, damn it, out of my way. You have one, oh shit. You got to install it before this air filter. But you've got one that is 1024, that is cast into here. The 1032 is the nut you have to drop in that I didn't drop in before sealing this up. Therefore, we get to take it back apart. Funny, not funny. I guess it's easier to do this one first. Huh. You guys know my aversion to taking a handle off if you don't have to. This is a very graphic and abnormal illustration of why. So I am holding that screw or nut in place with my finger. And I'm going to continue doing. You know what we forgot? Or what I forgot? That stinking insert that goes behind this. So that if the handle moves a little bit, micro vibrations, it's hitting steel and not magnesium. Let's see what that did for alignment. Nothing good. Oh yeah, ouch. Well, now I can lacerate myself with it. That's a plus. You miserable sack of monkey crap. Is there a front? I guess there is a direction on it. The longer, taller, whatever piece of bent goes towards the clutch. Okay. Can't slip out now. Let's get the other screw started so that we're not torquing this handle against one screw. And this thread is in the tank itself, so it's the 1024, ultra important. If you mess this up, you're not going to have a good day. Whether you're installing a new part and have ruined it, or you're just using your old one and have ruined it. these parts aren't growing on the trees. Okay. Start with what I perceive to be the harder one. Had to drop the nut in place. Get it started. And I'll get the other one started. There she goes. If you mix up and try and put a long screw in here, you're going to bottom out against the crankcase. Or the tank, excuse me. And punch a new hole. And in my case, I just fixed the last one. It wasn't from that, but I don't care. I don't want to screw anything up. Now this one has an aversion to lining up. And I don't quite know. Oh, get out of my way. Maybe we got it. Doesn't feel like it though. There. Now we grabbed. Now I'm going to get medieval and tighten these down. We'll assume that was good, Pop. It got in its home. Just like Happy told it to. Beautiful. Well, alrighty then. Okay, we're back where we started. Sorry about that. I had failed to empty the memory card this morning, or memory on the camera, I should say. Whatever, however you want to put it. So obviously, I've got it back together. Did a little cleanup. Got the man, the bar is so long I can't. There we go. It's in view. Got the outer spike put on it. Like I say, I have one for each of these saws that I've got. Just slips over the bar bolts and gives you a nice straight, almost level as it's sitting. Keeps the bar up out of the dirt too. So yeah, pretty cool. I am really happy with this. And when you tip it over now, there's no hole. Even though it wasn't leaking, there's no hole. Yuck, what's that? In the bottom of the tank. There is still evidence of the corrosion right here. Whatever the saw was sitting on, whether it was bare concrete or what, before I got it, didn't do it any good. But there we go. The 550CS has been made better, and I am still ultra happy to have this one in my collection. You know, it's not very often that I pull one down out of the attic and add something to it at this point. I can't get to most of that stuff, but I've always kept this one accessible because, well, I like running it. Even though it's been a long time since I have run it, this chassis, the 8800, the 540, they're all good. They're good saws. They really are. I wish they had been around a little bit longer. I think Homelite would have done okay with them, continued moving forward. But who knows with emissions and all that stuff. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, we're not done with this platform. There is some more content to come. So stay tuned. We'll catch you guys in the next video.